everybody in here has some abilities that God has endowed them with. Everybody. You know how to draw. You're a really good artist. But see, I'm not. There are people who have that ability. They were born with that ability. Now you can work with it, you can cultivate it, you can develop it, but you either have that ability or you don't. And if you do have it, it's not because you're special. It's because God blessed you. Some people are really good at working with their hands. They can build a house from the ground up. Some people, listen, they can't scramble an egg. Listen, you either have that ability or you don't. And if you have that ability, it's not because you're special. It's because God blessed you. Some people have really strong minds. They can see things very, very clearly. And listen, you can study all day long, and some people are just born with greater insight than other people. That's not a miracle. That's a blessing from God. That's a gift. And so that's the extent to which I mean this. Everybody has something, and the point was, whatever you have, God expects you to use it for His glory. Now, you remember in Matthew 25, verses 14 through 30, where he talks about the man who had gone on a journey and had given to his servants different talents. He had 1 5, 1 2, and 1 1. What was the point of that? He just expected each of the servants to use what they were given to give him some increase. The one who had been given 5, he gave the master 5 talents of increase, and the master said, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. Now it says, enter into the joy of your Lord. I make you ruler over many things." The one who had been given 2 talents, he had 2 talents of increase. Why did he have 5? Why did he have 5 talents of increase? Because he wasn't gifted by the master the same way as the one who had the 5 talents. He had 2 talents. He worked with the 2 and brought 2 talents of increase and got the same reward. Isn't that a good God? That's a good master right there. The only problem was the rascal who had the 1 talent. See, now he had 1 talent. And I don't know if he was concerned, why did he give me 5? Because you couldn't handle 5. That's all. He gave you according to your individual ability. And guess what? He didn't expect anything more from you than what you could do. But you went and buried it. And what did the master say? You should have took my talent. You should have put it in the bank. You should have gotten me some interest. So when I came back, I would have my own with some increase. See, that's the point. Whatever the talent is that you have, God expects to get something from it. He expects to be glorified. He expects you to use it for His glory. Now, that was the point. I want to start with verse 11 because we're going to go from verse 11 down through verse 16 and the things that we just talked about. I think you need all of that to make good sense of what is happening here. Verse 11, Paul says, "And he gave some to be apostles, and some prophets, and some evangelists, and some pastors and teachers, for the perfecting of the saints, to the work of ministering, and to the building up of the body of Christ, till we all attain to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, unto a full-grown man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, that we may be no longer children, tossed to and fro, carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men, in craftiness after the wiles of error, but speaking the truth in love, we may grow up in all things into Him who is the head, even Christ, from whom all the body fitly framed together and knit together through that which every joint supplies, according to the working in due measure of each several or individual part, makes the increase of the body unto the building up of itself in love. What is he emphasizing in these few verses? He's emphasizing the idea of the church growing. Our growth as the church. Some people don't like change. People want things to be the way they have always been. They don't want to learn anything new. They don't want to do anything different. They don't want to be challenged to become more than what they are. But I tell people this all the time. You cannot get better and They stay the same. And the fact is, you're not going to stay the same. You're either going to get better or you're going to get worse. You cannot stay the same. But some people don't like change. You know, change requires hard work. Change requires you to be uncomfortable at times. You know, when we decided to move from Montgomery to Alabama, we sat down, of course, my wife and I talked about it a whole bunch, and then we got to a certain place, and the kids were small then. We got to talk to the kids about it, let them know what's going on. And, you know, I knew it was going to be a problem. I knew that they were not going to be excited about it. So we sit down and we talk, and I tell them, you know, what we're thinking, and my older boy says, well, okay, listen, as long as we can live in this house, we can go anywhere you want. I said, well, see, but the way this is going to work now, we're going to have a different house. He said, okay, that's fine. As long as we can still worship at this congregation, and I can see my friends every Sunday and every Wednesday, we can move wherever you want to move. I said, well, see, bud, this is not the way this works. In order for us to do this work for the Lord, there's going to have to be some changes. And that was uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Uprooting and moving and being different, meeting new people and going new places and doing different things. But see, that's what it takes to grow. God expects the church to grow. And Paul is making that point. He makes it in several places, but he makes it right here. Listen, in Ephesians chapter 2, we read this already this morning, but if you look at Ephesians chapter 2 and verse number 21, he says, in each several or individual building fitly framed together, we grow into a holy temple in the Lord. In verse 22, he says, in whom we are builded together for a habitation, a dwelling place for God. Building and growing. In chapter 4 right here, what we just read, verse 15, he says, but speaking the truth in love, we may grow up into all things in Him. God does not expect us to stay the same. He is glorified when we take the various abilities and talents that He gives us individually, and we use those things together collectively to build up the church in which He is glorified. The bigger, the stronger, the better the church becomes, the more the God of the Bible is glorified. He does not expect us to stay the same. It can't be like it's always been. See, because normally what's going to happen is, instead of being the way it's always been, it's going to deteriorate. So our focus has to be on getting better. What we see here, beginning at verse number 11, is that Jesus has given us the materials that we need. He has given us the resources that we need to grow. Look at verse 11 again. He says, He